Dosa King and one of the most well-known food businessmen from Tamil Nadu, P. Rajagopal.
He was born into poverty, raised among the red dust and fields of Tamil Nadu. By sheer force of will, he built a global empire, feeding millions, conquering continents, one dosa at a time. They called him the Dosa King, but few knew what he was capable of when he was told by an astrologer that his destiny depended on a woman who didn't love him back. That obsession would end in blood. And it would take nearly 2 decades before justice would drag him from the marble halls of his restaurant empire to the cold concrete of a prison cell. His name was Ponusami Rajagopal, and this is how one of India's most successful businessmen became a convicted murderer. Stay with us. The Dosa King, Obsession, Power and Murder, a true crime o'clock documentary. To understand how a man can fall so far, you first have to understand just how high he rose. Ponusami Rajagopal was born in 1947 in a quiet, sun-scorched village called Punayadi, nestled in the Tuticorin district of Tamil Nadu. His father was an onion farmer. Theirs was a life of struggle, measured in harvests and hunger. Rajagopal wasn't educated. He never learned to speak English fluently, but he watched, he absorbed, and what he lacked in letters, he made up for in relentless ambition. In his 20s, he moved to Chennai, armed with nothing but a few rupees and a vision no one else could see. He opened a tiny grocery shop. It wasn't much, but it was his. Then came a turning point. An astrologer told him, "Fire will bring you fortune." Rajagopal took that quite literally. He pivoted. In 1981, he launched a small restaurant in KK Nagar. It was clean, affordable, and vegetarian, perfectly tailored to Chennai's rising middle class. That restaurant was named Saravana Bhavan, and within a few short years, it would become a cultural juggernaut. He standardized recipes, controlled quality with an iron fist, paid his staff more than his competitors, imported chefs directly from India to staff his overseas locations. The food was always the same, no matter where you ate it. And for millions of Indians living abroad, eating at Saravana Bhavan felt like going home. By 2019, his empire spanned continents, more than 100 restaurants in over 20 countries, from the streets of Chennai to the heart of Manhattan to the skyscrapers of Dubai. Rajagopal had become a household name. To many, he was more than a businessman. He was a symbol of tradition, excellence, and hard-won success. But as his empire grew, so did his desire for control, for legacy, for permanence. And that's when the whispers began, about a woman, about an astrologer, about something he was willing to risk everything for. Something he believed he was destined to have. And he would stop at nothing to claim it. At the height of his power, Rajagopal had everything a man could want: wealth, recognition, and influence. But there was one thing he couldn't buy, and it would unravel him. Her name was Jiva Jyoti. She was young, bright, soft-spoken, the daughter of an assistant manager at one of Rajagopal's restaurants. She had no idea, none, that her presence had stirred something dangerous in the mind of the man at the top. According to multiple witnesses, it began subtly. Friendly greetings, uninvited compliments, a growing presence. But Rajagopal was not a man used to hearing the word no. By this time, he was already married twice, but in his mind, that didn't matter, because an astrologer, someone he trusted more than logic, had told him that marrying Jiva Jyoti would bring him unimaginable fortune and secure his legacy forever. He believed it completely, and that belief became obsession. Over time, his intentions became clear. He sent gifts, he made offers. He tried to impress her family. Jiva Jyoti was polite, but firm. She was not interested. In 1999, she married someone else, a quiet, well-educated man named Prince Santakumar. He was her brother's mathematics tutor. Their union was ordinary, peaceful. But for Rajagopal, it was war. Those close to him later revealed how his behavior began to shift. The man who once ruled kitchens with precision now became erratic, agitated. He told people he was destined to be with her. The rejection hadn't ended his obsession, it had only made it more dangerous. And as Jiva Jyoti and Prince tried to live their quiet lives, they began to notice strange things. Threatening phone calls, men following them, pressure, subtle at first, then frightening. And yet, this was just the beginning, because Rajagopal had stopped thinking like a businessman. He had started thinking like a man who believed the universe owed him something. And when fate didn't deliver, he decided to take it by force. In the quiet of 1999, Jivajyoti chose a life far away from wealth, power, or promises. She married Prince Santakumar, a man of modest means and gentle nature, a tutor. Their love was unremarkable, but it was peaceful. Rajagopal couldn't accept it. He continued to chase what had already chosen someone else, but what once came disguised as flattery and obsession soon gave way to something far more disturbing. Friends began warning the couple. Strange men appeared outside their home, anonymous calls made at night, unmarked vehicles parked across the street for hours. According to police reports, Rajagopal began using his influence to try and break them apart. He threatened Prince, pressured Jivajyoti's family, attempted to coerce her into ending the marriage. When that failed, he tried a different tactic. He sent her to astrologers and spiritual healers, claiming that her husband was cursed, that she would face ruin if she stayed with him. But she refused to be manipulated. Then, in October 2001, everything changed. Rajagopal's men abducted Prince and Jivajyoti in Chennai. They were held for hours, questioned, intimidated. Then, Jivajyoti was suddenly released. But Prince was not. For days, she waited, desperate, hoping. Then the silence broke. In the remote forests of Kodaikanal, a body was found, dumped, decomposed. It was Prince Santakumar, and he had been strangled. The man Jivajyoti loved, the man who had stood between Rajagopal and the destiny he believed was his, was gone. And just like that, a respected businessman hailed across continents for his discipline and spiritual devotion had become the prime suspect in a murder investigation. His empire remained polished on the outside, but the cracks had split wide open. What followed would unravel every illusion of control he thought he held, because even power can't bury a body forever. When police pieced together the final hours of Prince Santakumar's life, all signs pointed to one man. And when Rajagopal was arrested, the nation was stunned. This wasn't a crime of poverty or desperation. It was orchestrated by a millionaire, a man with a fleet of lawyers, a brand to protect, and a belief that his wealth could erase anything. But this time, it didn't. In 2004, after years of legal delays and mounting evidence, Rajagopal was found guilty. The charge? Culpable homicide not amounting to murder. The sentence? 10 years in prison. But there was outrage. Public opinion was shifting. How could a man so powerful, so clearly linked to a premeditated killing, receive a sentence that many felt was lenient? The case didn't fade. It refused to disappear. In 2009, the Madras High Court reviewed the evidence again. This time they saw it for what it was, a brutal, cold-blooded elimination of a man standing in the way of Rajagopal's personal fantasy. The charge was upgraded, the sentence rewritten. Life imprisonment. Rajagopal appealed. He stalled. He stayed free. For nearly a decade, he used his declining health and a maze of legal technicalities to delay surrender. But the clock was ticking. And in March 2019, the Supreme Court of India gave its final word. No more appeals, no more delays, the verdict stood. Rajagopal was going to prison. In July 2019, nearly 18 years after the murder, he surrendered. He arrived not in handcuffs, but in an ambulance strapped to an oxygen tank. His once imposing figure frail, a mask over his face. He had fallen from grace. The Dosa King, the man who had once ruled a global restaurant empire, was now a convict. But the story wasn't over yet, because just 9 days later, Rajagopal's heart would stop beating. And what followed raised even more questions. July 9th, 2019, nearly 2 decades after a man was murdered in the forests of Kodaikanal, the man responsible was finally on his way to prison. But he didn't walk in. He was wheeled, pale, sunken, unresponsive. Rajagopal arrived at the Madras court strapped to a stretcher, his face hidden behind an oxygen mask. His empire was still intact, his restaurants still running, but the man himself was barely there. Some believed it was a performance, a final act of evasion, an attempt to delay the inevitable one last time. Others believed it was genuine, that time, guilt, and obsession had worn him down, far more effectively than the courts ever could. Regardless of intent, he was sent to jail, but he would never see the inside of a prison cell. Just 9 days later, on the morning of July 18th, Rajagopal was declared dead. The cause, cardiac arrest following multiple organ failure. At 71 years old, the man who once dreamed of conquering the world through a Dosa empire died in a hospital bed, surrounded not by fortune or family, but by guards. There were no farewell statements, no dramatic final words, just silence and a legacy stained forever. Today, Saravana Bhavan remains a giant. The kitchens still burn bright, the dosa pans still hiss. The brand lives on, managed now by Rajagopal's sons, its presence etched across continents. For many patrons, nothing has changed. The food still tastes the same. The prices still draw crowds. But for others, something lingers, a quiet unease. The knowledge that behind the name on the door was a man who believed destiny gave him the right to take what he wanted, no matter the cost. He built an empire on precision and discipline, but he destroyed a life because he couldn't accept rejection. What began as ambition mutated into obsession. What could have been a legacy of service and success ended in shame. Prince Santhakumar is rarely remembered, but he should be, because this wasn't just a story of downfall, it was a story of choice, of a man who had everything and still decided it wasn't enough. At True Crime O'Clock, we uncover stories like these, not to sensationalize, but to remind. That power left unchecked doesn't just corrupt, sometimes it kills. If this story moved you, share it, subscribe, stay curious, stay vigilant, and above all, never look away.